Hi guys, my name is Emily DeSimone with the Garden State Film Festival, and here with me today I have Emily Timmer. She is the director of Smokescreens. How are you today, Emily?
I'm doing well. This is fun. Two Emilys in a room.
Yeah. So Emily, can you tell everybody a tidbit about your film?
Yeah, it was a film made during the pandemic, kind of during, in that window where things heightened again and we had a lot of questions. So I took this incredible team that had been working on this film probably 2 years with me, prepping it, and we went into a bubble in the Arizona desert, had some amazing location connections, went into our own little bubble and lived this strange little paradise experience for 10 days in Arizona, shot this movie. It was February, kind of during COVID stuff. And it was an incredible experience with cast and crew. And that bubble forged something I hope to have on other film sets. But yeah, really incredible experience. Acting in it was pretty vulnerable as, a director too. And that kind of came about in the month before we shot it. I had been looking for another actor. And it really came down to like, okay, I need to play this role. And so I really had to trust my team, and they went above and beyond. It was very much a shared vision. So I'm very grateful.
And you wrote and also starred in this film.
Yeah. It was a labor of lots of personal love. Yeah, it had been something that had developed between my best friend and I. And the story, I think, as a lot of these stories are, has all these fictional, settings, places, moments that allow for a lot more emotional truth. And I think in hindsight, the more I've reflected on this film, I've realized that. But I had developed it kind of in conversation with my best friend, Stephanie, who the other character is named after. And when it came down to it and we were in this tight spot with COVID, it just turned out that casting myself was the best move. And I had some mentors and advisors, encouraging me in that direction. So I had to get over that little hurdle of like, is that okay? And then I was like, you know what? If I walked into a room with the director cast me, it was like splitting your personalities. And I was like, okay, this is what we got to do. So interesting experience. I would say it was so informative. And I think set me up for a lot of things I would never have understood as a writer director had I not acted in my own thing, good and bad and hard. I won't do that in a lot of films, but I will say in that one, it was just such a powerful experience to be on both sides and to learn things and to witness things I never would have had I stayed behind the monitor,
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I don't know from personal experience, but I know that there are plenty of movies where the directors were in their
Yeah.
movie. So don't by any means think that that's like not an okay thing to do, because it's not like this is the first time it's happening. With that said, though, so what inspired your writing for this story?
Yeah, it was interesting. There was a moment I was in this master's program in Southern California, incredible directing program. One of our professors did this really interesting thing to give us a spark for a story. And he had us come in and bring an object. And he said that often we start a story being like, okay, here's something I've learned or I've understood, and let me write about it. And he said, don't write what you know, write what haunts you. And I thought that was so profound, because what he's saying is write the things that you're still grappling with, write the things that you're still trying to understand and lean into. And he said, okay, in order to do that, bring an object into class. And this is an intimate setting with like just 16 of us directors. We all had to bring an object and share about this object and allow this object to potentially be the seed for a story. And so I had brought in this pig keychain that one of my friends had given me, and its neck had snapped and it had all these little wires, a little flashlight. I brought it in because I had kept it for all this time. And this particular friend had given it to me, who had seen some of my uglier sides. I've been a perfectionist a lot of my life, and that's been something I've unraveled for a while. And when I brought it in and shared with these classmates, I was just like, I don't really know why I brought this in, but I think it has something to do with it's broken and I still want to keep it and it means something. And I got all emotional. I couldn't really understand why. And I was like, oh, there's something here that's still haunting me. And really the story just grew out of this sense of like, whoa, can we be loved? Can I be loved when I'm seen at my worst, at my shadiest, or at my darkest moment? So literally the whole script, the story, the way it was directed is just born out of what if somebody else is brought into this moment you're unraveling? And what if they receive you in that moment? And so this pig became like a central element of that. When it breaks, it's like, well, you can, you know, you still be loved when you're broken. So that's it.
I love that meaning. Is that what you want your audience to take from your film?
Yeah, I think it's a quirky little, you know, emotional and subtle piece, but I think that's what it all builds toward, is hopefully that somebody could watch it and resonate with that moment and, you know, have this little soft moment of feeling like either they see themselves in it or this sense that there are people around you who are going to meet you when you don't feel your best, or worse yet, when you feel your worst, who are going to embrace you and who are going to say, hey, I love you when you're broken, you know?
I mean, that's a beautiful message to send out to people. And I know that there are going to be people that are going to, that is going to resonate with them. I think everybody, you know, everybody feels that way. Nobody ever feels like they're perfect. And
Right.
I think
We pretend.
So how did you find, you know, your cast and crew and the people that you worked with on this film?
Oh, that's fun because that was like the true highlight. Starting with crew, I met my collaborators in graduate school in a graduate MFA directing program, and we sort of just like homing pigeons found each other over the course of these 3 years. So forever grateful for that. If anything, film school is worth just the people you would carry with you. My cinematographer, Miguel, who might have been here today, but he is absolutely astonishingly talented, and also just this, like, we share very little in terms of background context and yet see the world in so many similar ways, and he understands things I would have to explain at length to other people. So huge, like, kindred spirit there. The rest of the team, in a similar way, we just gravitated to each other in that program. And then my co-actor was just a like stellar, solid, amazing find that I think I was a little blind to for a bit because I had cast someone else. We were trying to go for a name in a sense. And it was this serendipitous moment 10 days before shooting. This is the worst when it's happening. 10 days before shooting, we have so much locked, locations in Arizona, everything. And this other casting choice, 50% of the film really, had to pull out because of COVID, as happens, like, understand. But we're just left in like a desperate state, I would say. And so I had known Zara through another friend. She's extremely accomplished in Australia and has had a great career and was here over COVID. And it was just like this aha moment where I was like, oh my gosh, I probably should have cast her from the start. Reached out to her, and it was, again, serendipitous. She's like, I happen to be free this whole like 3-week period. She came to Arizona, and the minute we drove, this is hilarious behind the scenes, but the minute we drove the road trip out to Arizona, I ended up driving her. Those 7 hours, I was like, well, this is going to work. We're already these characters. Like, it was just like, put the cameras on now. This is perfect. So I have her to thank so much for this first experience of acting for me, because she was an incredibly gracious, generous, present co-actor. And I felt very safe to do things that I think would have been terrifying otherwise. And having to split that role, she very much took care of me as an actor, as a co-actor. So yeah, it was a very serendipitous little cluster of people I feel so grateful for.
I love your energy just about everything. And I love your use of serendipitous. And so you're saying that you filmed this during COVID?
Yes. The tail end.
Like you said February. Did you mean February of
2021? Yeah, it was 2 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. And so I guess besides losing one of your lead actors, did COVID have any other effect on, you know, filming or not?
Yeah. I mean, as many people have probably experienced, there's lots of unknowns at different points, you know, that we were all navigating, true to form for everyone. And it was a complication, I would say, to navigate going through a set, even out in the desert, with lots of little steps to ensure we were being safe, to ensure we were testing. So we did have to do the break for testing. We had a COVID compliance officer. But again, so interesting how those challenges worked out, I think, to serve the experience, because our COVID compliance officer, one of my directing peers and friends, Osanachi, ended up being on our set, and was just remarkable to have her. She was like another pair of eyes. She has an incredible instinct intuitively with film. So it was just really lovely to end up having her there, even in this role of COVID compliance. That served well. And then interestingly, that day off that we had in the midst of shooting, which usually you'd want to just keep going through because we had to test and then get results that day, it turned out to be this incredible day of bonding. We all just went to a couple little spots as a cast and crew, hung out, spent the time together, talked, kind of blew off some steam. And then when we came back to it, we were pretty sharp. So, I mean, other than like the masking and the sanitizing and the extra costs, I'm weirdly a little grateful for some of the ways that it worked out, even though it hurt the budget a little bit, you know? Yeah, it was just such an unknown time. There was a lot that we didn't know and still probably don't about COVID, you know?
And how long has it been that you graduated from your program?
A year and a half. So right now I'm deep into a feature film production.
Ooh.
Hopefully shooting this year or very early next. We've got another amazing team and we've got a script and we've got some great things brewing for a feature, which is exciting and terrifying.
You filmed this Smokescreens for your
program? It was a graduate thesis film.
Okay. And
yeah.
Did you get an A?
And you what?
Did you get an A?
Isn't that funny? Everyone wonders, and I was like, how does that work? There's like an academic side and then there's the like film side. So yes, I got some A's on the classes. And in terms of this film, there was wonderful feedback. I will say the professors, the faculty, some of the mentors were, and this is why I was hesitant to say act in it, because they were all like, there was a policy that you don't do this actually as a graduate director. And they waived that policy just because of the circumstances when we were shooting. And we got some amazing feedback. So that made it worthwhile. I was like, I do not want to let any of you down with this decision and this freedom you've given me. So it was a very satisfying experience to have the team pull through in the way that they did.
I mean, your film has now gotten accepted into the Garden State Film Festival. So clearly.
Yeah, I know. I'm so honored.
Is this your first time with the Garden State Film Festival?
It's my first time, yes.
And I know we spoke a little bit prior. You said that you heard about this.
I was at the Pasadena International Film Festival for Smokescreens. We had an amazing opportunity there. Won an award there. It was great, but was winning an award alongside. Oh my goodness! I'm gonna look. Hang on 1 second. I'm gonna find Heather. It's Heather. And Heather was there as well for a film of hers, and I was blown away by her and her performance. And I know she's part of Garden State. We were just chatting. She's like, hey, you should just submit to the Garden State Film Festival. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And then here we are. I'm very grateful.
And you were saying you didn't think you would be able to make it to the festival?
I can't in person. I know. It's this like exact weekend that I'm going to be doing the hardest thing I've done in a while. I will be part of a relay team, an 8-person relay team running from the Santa Monica Pier to Las Vegas through the desert, 300 and something miles. So I will be in another dimension of exhaustion at that point.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's such a pleasure getting to talk to you now, and best of luck with that, because I don't think I could personally. I mean, I could try, but I mean, that's a huge feat in itself. So, I mean, best of luck with that. But
thank you
so much for joining with me today. Do you have any advice you would say, like an obstacle that you ran into, that you learned from, for any newer starting out directors?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still learning my own advice right now, learning from others. Yeah, I think prioritizing people truly and genuinely has been the best pathway. We talk a lot about networking, but it doesn't have to be that way. It's just learning to grow in relational, emotional health, relate to people really well, find common ground, and then build this group of people that you believe in and that believe in you and do it together. I think that's why we're in film. So I would just say learning to really prioritize strong, actual relationships that flourish in creativity, but that seems to be the best way forward versus worrying and stressing about success or accolades. It just seems like prioritizing people is always the way to go.
Thank you so much, Emily, again, for joining with me today and getting to speak with everybody. You guys, you can see the
Thank
film.
you.
Thank you. On Saturday, March 25th, at Asbury Hall from 8:30 p.m. to 10:30. Best of luck with your relay race, and you will be missed, but I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Emily. This was a pleasure.